This is this webinar actually is more of an introductory webinar because I think all of you would be aware that in an hour we would not be able to cover all the intricacies required for the teams to know for a bank branch audit. So obviously, what Taxmann is planned is that I'm sorry, there are some electrical issues, but I think it should get solved. But hopefully, the Wi-Fi should keep working. So, what Taxmann has done for ensuring that all the participants are trained for the complete gamut of the bank branch audit and end-to-end, step-by-step audit process is that there are two master workshops which have been planned. One is on the 24th of March, which is a 3-hour workshop, and then again on the 1st of April, again a 3-hour this thing. And here, friends, what we would be doing is it would be a workshop where I would take you through the entire process right from the time you receive the appointment letter till the time you sign off the financial statements. And as is the normal this thing in my book that I would concentrate on the practical issues rather than being too technical, so that the teams are able to not only understand the entire process, but also it would help them execute carry out the assignment whenever they visit the bank branch audit. Now, before I start on my presentation, I just a small an advice which normally comes as a query to most of the times whenever I'm addressing a seminar is about the time constraint. Friends, let me share with you that let's be strict about how much time you need to spend in the bank branch instead of going by the deadline the banks fix. Normally banks would fix a time period which probably would not work with you. So there are two ways of going over it. One is I have a reasonable size of the audit team which takes care of all the risks which a bank branch audit does. And secondly, if I'm unable to increase the team size, I probably take that extra time and put in that extra hour so that I'm able to cover everything. Like Komal said, I think since it's a short seminar, a webinar, so I think it'll be more convenient if I take up all the queries after I finish the presentation. I'll share the presentation and then let's So this is the broad agenda, friends. I think this was also there in the handout which Taxmann did. But if you see the agenda, it broadly covers, it takes you through the risks which a bank branch audit presents to the auditors. And then, I would broadly take up the planning which needs to go into the audit process before you set out of your office for carrying out the branch audit. So primarily, if I have to put a thumb rule, the agenda would cover everything one needs to do before one sets out of the of your office for carrying out the branches which you get during the year. Of course, it's a little premature today, but then I think probably another 15 days I expect that the appointment letters should start coming in. There are a few very important documents which probably we'll be dealing with in the workshops, which I think I'll also share with you, which are also part of the book, which is to be released. So, these are templates which are easy to use. Practically, you can, put them actually into use whenever you carry out an audit at the branch. Before I start off, my disclaimer that, the views in this presentation should be considered to be mine, and they have nothing to do with either the views of the institute or my firm where I'm a partner. Friends, just 1 second, sir. Before we start, let us see how the banking industry is actually, faring, has fared during the past few years, so that, this will give us an idea as to, how do we approach the branch audit. Do we approach it with an apprehension that, there'll be a lot of evergreen accounts, accounts which probably have been hidden as standard performing audits advances, or has the pressure on the banking industry in terms of the NPAs decreased? Now, if you see from September 20 up to March 22, in fact, even later figures which have come out from the banks in the limited reviews, which has been published in the various newspapers, you would see that, not only in the public sector banks, the private sector banks and the foreign banks, all of them have shown a decrease in the gross NPA ratio, which obviously gives you some comfort when you go to the branch for the audit. So similarly, the net NPA ratio, which is also across all kinds of banks, has gone down, public sector, private sector, and the foreign banks. Now, this is the growth in the SMAs and the NPAs from December 21 to March 22. If you see that, the SMA 0, SMA 1, and the SMA 2, I think all of you would be aware that, since quite a number of years, in view of the CRILC report, which the RBI had fixed, banks are now required to classify accounts into SMA 0, SMA 1, and SMA 2 before they're actually classified as an NPA. Now, so if you see all of them, all the SMA 0, 1, 2, they've all shown a decrease as compared to the December 21 growth chart. And similarly, the NPAs also in March 22, there was a slight decrease as compared to vis-a-vis the quarter previous to that, which is December 21. Now, frauds, over the past, I think probably 4 to 5 years, 2018 was probably the year when I think frauds their frauds reported were at the peak. Now, if you see that, from 2019-20, where we had 1,85,000 crores value of frauds being reported. The figure up to September 22 has come down to 19,485 only, which is, even if you take it on a cumulative basis, it is still, literally 50% of what was reported in 2021-22. And even the numbers have gone down from 8,000 numbers which are there in 2019-22 to 5,406. Now, let's take a quick walkthrough as to how do we progress as after receiving the appointment letter. The first step is obviously, you receive the appointment letter. The next is before you send the acceptance, the first thing you need to do is confirm whether the firm or any of the partners is disqualified because of various reasons which your appointment letter would carry. And obviously, one of them would be indebtedness. So in case if it is there, then you need to ensure in case there is just two of you and both of you are clear that none of you is indebted, but there would be firms where there are more than 2 or 3 partners and sitting across India. So here it would be advisable that you send out a email requesting all the partners and also subsequently the team members whom you choose for confirming that they do not fall into the disqualification which has been listed in the appointment letter. Once that is done, obviously the next thing is I write to the previous auditor, and normally nowadays the best option is you email and expect a reply from the auditor immediately. And another option could be that based on the contact number you have of the previous auditor, you can always call them and find out if there are any professional or other reasons for your not accepting the branch audit which you've received. Now, once that is done, then the next step comes, which is accepting the appointment, which is in the form of the acceptance letter which banks prescribe. But I would also suggest that together with that, or probably change the acceptance letter which banks would not accept. My experience has been that you may need to send an acceptance letter in the format which the banks have prescribed, and secondly you dispatch an engagement letter in terms of the SA 210, which the format I would also share with you in my book, and also that also forms part of the guidance note on bank audit, which the institute would come out soon. Now, post this becomes the most important part, basis which this webinar has been held. The next step is, what kind of back office preparations do we require to do to ensure that we carry out an audit which is in terms of the institute's expectations, the RBI, which is the regulatory body expectations, and also obviously as per the expectation of the bank which you're doing. Once that is done, you concurrently carry out the meetings with your team members, and then immediately send an email, preferably an email, so that it reaches the branch immediately. Send an inquiry letter to the branch. Then we need to fix up the team constitution based on your experience, based on the size of the branch, and it would be advised that you talk to the respective branch managers and then try to find out as to what kind of branch it is, like what is the number of advances, not only in terms of the value but also the numbers, and so that you could probably fix up, and whether there is a foreign exchange in that, so that you could fix up the team constitution in terms of what is expected of the team members at the branch. Here, I would suggest that in a typical branch, I would advise that we have at least 3 members. One member who's experienced in advances and who also together, so that he's able to deal with the IRAC norms, in line with the master circular which has come out this year, after a long time. The last master circular came out in 1st July 2015. And also together with that, concurrently, he is able to handle everything which one needs to do in respect of advances, which is also obviously would form part of the LFAR. Now, a second member who's able to handle all the financial statements, which is the balance sheet, profit loss, and all of the statements, except the statements which relate to the advances, which probably member A can do. And then member C, in case there are the tax audit is being given to the branch auditor in the bank you're doing, then obviously he does the tax audit and all other miscellaneous certificates and other work which there are a number of certificates which you would find that one needs to sign off as per the appointment letter. Another important thing I think is that do not sign off the branch financial statements and returns unless you have obtained from the branch letter of representation from the branch incumbent, which whoever the AGM, DGM, and in terms of SA 580 issued by the ICAI. Here also the draft is both available in the guidance note and also as part of the book. One, very, I have, whenever I've addressed seminars, I found that, people inquiring of me whether, you can sign a certificate which the branch manager is asking you to do. Friends, I'll be very clear that, you need to be very specific that since your engagement letter is limited to, it specifies the statements and the certificates which you need to sign. So please ensure that you do not sign anything other than for which you were appointed in the as per the appointment letter, and also for which we exchange the engagement letter. Then of course, you need to issue an audit report in terms of the format which you would get along with the appointment letter. Nowadays, most of it is online. So the audit report would be in that format. Of course, there are some issues here which we will address in the master workshops, which we will take up later. But please do ensure that all the audit reports are in terms of the format of the 700 series of the Standards on Auditing issued by the ICAI. Now, when you carry out a pre-audit meeting, please ensure that it is not only you and probably a chartered accountant who is going on with you, but you also need to ensure that all the team members, whether it is an article assistant or a paid assistant who is experienced, or a retired banker who's there with you as a this thing, he's part of the team. So what are the things you need to I'm sorry. So So the team consisting of the team members and the partner who would be leading the team to the branch audit, I would advise that here generally it should be the partner who's probably, or anybody who's more experienced, who takes the lead. And the first thing one needs to read thoroughly is the branch appointment letter, so that one is clear as to what are the terms of appointment, what are the things, if you see an appointment letter, generally it would consist of a number of do's and don'ts. It would also give you various controls where it comes obviously from the central statutory auditor. So those controls would probably tell you that this particular statement needs to tally with this particular row of this particular statement, or probably the statement of profit loss or capital adequacy, whatever. So please read the branch appointment letter thoroughly, and also ensure that the team members are all aware as to which are the statements which we need to sign, which are the certificates which we need to sign, and in how many copies. If it's an online kind of this thing, then of course it's only to be submitted, but then there could be some banks and there could be some statements and certificates where you would probably need to sign physically also. Banks closing instructions, normally, some banks, they share it with the auditors at the time of appointment. In case they are not there, then once you reach the branch, please ask the branch incumbent to share with you the bank's closing instructions, because this gives the instructions to close the accounts, and also various other cross controls in detail. Other than that, I think the most important would be that all the team members need to be sure of what are the regulatory master directions, master circulars, notifications, FAQs, press releases, which would be relevant to the branches one is going to. So I have tried to list out a few RBI circulars and etc., which would be relevant, of course, but that would not be the end of it, because depending on what department you're doing or what kind of statement you're doing, you would need the first point of reference should always be the RBI or the regulatory body's master direction or notification, and obviously after that you would also have the guidance note to fall back on. And staff identification, like I said, that is probably the first thing you need to do. As soon as the branch appointment letter comes to you, you need to ensure that you're able to identify that what is the team constitution you would have for the branches to be audited. Now, in case what is the risk which is involved in branch audit? Now, what happens if I if I do not carry out the bank branch audit properly? Now, obviously, if I do not prepare, if I do not plan properly, the first risk which comes is I could incorrectly attest the financial statement, I could incorrectly attest the statements, I could incorrectly report, and I could also, there could be a non-compliance with the master directions and all other regulatory notifications, FAQs, etc., as also the instructions given by the SCAs or the banks in their closing instructions. Now, another thing I think all of you would be aware is that the Reserve Bank of India does carry out the inspection under Section 35 and issues divergence which they have observed in terms of the provision which as per them was correct as per the IRAC norms vis-a-vis what the branch has done, certified by the auditor, and also various other, the classification could be different, the restructuring could be different. So there is a divergence list which comes out, which once it goes to the bank, then normally the banks then push it down to the branch level and also to the branch auditor, requesting them to explain as to why this particular account was not classified as an NPA, whereas the regulator is of the opinion that it should have been done in terms of this particular notification. Also, in case there is a gross negligence which is observed in classification, provisioning, etc., compliance with the regulatory circulars, etc., there could be a extreme step of being referred to the institute and consequential action under the disciplinary committee. So friends, I think it's very important that you spend at least if I would always go by a rule that in case you're spending 100 hours or 400 man days in for a bank branch audit, please ensure that, at least 20 to 25% of that time goes into planning, preparing your team, preparing yourself, getting updated as to, what are the changes which have been made during the year. Now, what are the audit procedures? What should they comply with? We need to ensure that they comply with all the important standards on auditing, comply with the guidance note on bank audit 2023, they comply with the technical standards, they comply with the various RBI regulations, and also the documentation, etc., and other expectation in case your firm is picked up for a peer review, and in case you are a central auditor, then obviously the quality review. These are, quickly, I'll take you through the some of the standards on auditing, which they are, of course, the standards on auditing in terms of numbers are much more, but these are a few of the standards on auditing which all of us need to ensure that we comply with it, and when documenting or carrying out any procedure, even at the bank branch audit. So obviously, SA 230 in terms of your documentation should be enough to ensure that, even after 2 or 3 years after your audit is done, you are able to prove as to who did it, when did they do it, how did they do it, and how did they, conclude on a particular opinion. Then obviously fraud has always been an important aspect. So SA 240, 520, I think, analytical procedures helps you quickly review the financial statements across, be it balance sheet, profit loss, or others. So, this would help you identify, whether there are any major changes which have happened during the year. SA 320, normally in a bank branch, the materiality would be fixed by the central auditor, because in terms of, you would be told that, nothing below 10,000 or 50,000 or any amount where, you need to ignore that and not even aggregate it. But then always prefer that, you also carry out a calculation of the materiality, which I'm sorry. So the next is evidence. As you carry out the audit, keep gathering evidence. SA 505, my advice is always that, external confirmation in terms of, let's say you have a balance with any other bank, RBI, or even, your external parties. I've been doing it in our even branch audits that, we do send out external confirmation through mails. So you can do it. We can discuss this in the workshops. Then in case, it is required, you can communicate with higher authorities, especially if you come upon a fraud or any other material divergence. Sampling, obviously, you need to decide what is the sampling level you need to accept for that particular branch or a particular procedure you're carrying out. Written representation, like I told you, is of extreme importance. Then using the work of internal auditor, this would, basically relate to the reports of the concurrent auditors and all other auditors, the internal auditors, the inspectors, etc. of the bank. So, you need to consider the reports before concluding on your own opinion. And of course, SA 210, like I said, that would be, as part of your acceptance procedure. 700 series, whenever you issue an audit report, please ensure that, the format of the report is in terms of SA 700, and your modifications, or if you're carrying out an emphasis, is as per 705 and 706. These are two documents which, I will not take too much time right now, but then these are, to my mind, in terms of documentation, one of the most important documents which the auditors should document for future reference in case there are some divergences noticed in their bank branch subsequently. So these are documents where number one, where you probably identified some accounts as NPA and you passed an MOC. So here you document the reason as to why did you pass the MOC, what are the technical reasons for classifying an account as an NPA. And the second, which is more important, is all the statement of accounts where the account was potential NPA and probably post discussion with your branch incumbent, we did not classify the account as an NPA. So here I would suggest that we specify the reasons for not issuing the MOC. But then, like I said, we'll take this up in detail whenever we take up the in our first master workshop on 24th of March. Now, this is another very important sign-off checklist, which I call the pre-sign-off checklist. And this is more for a partner that, I would suggest that, the signing partner goes through this pre-sign-off checklist. And also, he can also, develop on this. I've probably, for the sake of discussion, only taken 3 or 4 important issues to ensure before he signs off the financial statements. So here, you can develop on various other checklists where the partner feels that, without this, I'm not going to sign. Like I said, SA 580 should also be part of this, right? Similarly, all other things. So I've just identified, since, for the purpose of introduction, 3 or 4 things. So in terms of fraud, where the exposure is more than 50 crores, please ensure that, if it has been red flagged, here above 50 crores, the RBI said that, the flagging of an account where there are early warning signals. Early warning signals are given in the master direction issued by the Reserve Bank of India, which is probably updated up to 2017. Very important master direction. So here, above 50 crores, it is compulsory for the banks to identify, flag the accounts a red flag wherever EWS are there. And then the red flag has to be either removed within 6 months. And if it is not removed within 6 months, that is, the early warning signals do not go, then it needs to be reported as a suspected fraud or a fraud. And if it's a fraud, then obviously all of you are aware that you would require the accounts to be probably downgraded as a NPA and then provided for. For exposures less than 50 crores, the RBI has given the option to the banks to probably continue flagging it for this thing. So for confirming this, you would probably have to go to the bank, go to the branch, and then ensure or ask the branch incumbent to confirm as to up to which level are the accounts being red flagged. Now there are the list of all accounts flagged off as red flagged. You'll have to obtain from the bank, the branch, although because there are no options for us as auditors to find out on Finacle or any other CBS software about the red flagged account. So we'll have to take it either from the branch or probably from the regional office or zonal office, request them in advance. And wherever the accounts have been red flagged, our advice would be that you always review them properly, akin to probably carrying out a forensic, just in case they are one of those hidden NPAs. Now, all these early warning signals, like I said, they've already been identified. There are, I think, around 45 of them in the listing. So you need to review all the advances with the early warning signals. And in case, the early warning signals, they're not very material, then obviously you just list them out as non-compliances, etc. in the LFR, and if their early warning signals indicate that these accounts need to be downgraded, then you'll have to take a call on that. Then there is one CFR for credit appraisal, where banks use this portal for credit appraisal. So for limits, for all borrowers with limits above 1 CR, you need to confirm from the bank. Again, the CFR portal would not be available with you maybe at the branch level. So maybe you'll have to go to the nearest bank, zonal office, etc., to at least check upon some advances which have been sanctioned during the year, and that the CFR portal was used for sanctioning a particular advance. Now, earlier, if you remember that all the collaterals you had, the title deeds which were kept by the bank branches in the safe. Now, of course, since at least 4 to 5 years earlier, you have all the collateral, whether it is movable or immovable properties, they've all been now available on the CERSAI portal, which again the bank managers would have access to, but we as auditors would not have to. So in all these, whether it is EWS, whether it is RFA or CERSAI portal or CFR, everywhere we would have to take the help of the bank management to ensure that the collaterals against a particular advance where you're ensuring that, or even an NPA where you're trying to ensure whether there is adequate security available. So this would be available on the CERSAI portal by way of a registration number. So once you enter that registration number, the details come out, and then of course you can check upon the valuation report, etc., and then map it to the outstanding or the value of the NPA to ensure whether it is adequately provided. LEI, of course, this is only in respect of exposures above 100 crores. So here again, the RBI said that in these accounts, all these exposures of 100 crores and above, they need to be registered with the legal entity identifier. So in this again we can discuss during the workshop. Now, this is another important check you need to do as part of your sign off, or before you exit, or as part of the partner sign off report is the exception reports. As at the year end, you need to ensure that none of the exception reports, you can ask them. Generally, banks are required to take out a hard copy of it, and the branch manager is required to sign it. And in case he has that copy, please go through it and ensure that there are no exceptions which required an MOC to be passed at your end. And in case along with the year-end exception reports, the CBS exception report, please also go through some exception reports generated maybe in March or June, just to find out whether there were some advances where there were a number of overdrawings which were being given on a regular basis, etc. I mean, you could get a whole lot of information from these exception reports. But then, as an audit procedure and for the purpose of documentation, I think it's very, very important that the exception report, at least as at the year end, is with you as a document, and at least the summary part, and you review the entire exception report to ensure that as at the year end there are no exceptions which required us as auditors to pass an MOC. Now, obviously, CRILC, we could discuss this over during the time of the workshop. CRILC report SMA 012. Obviously, it would require us to review all the CRIL reports and ensure that, accounts which are regularly being repeated in SMA 01 or SMA 2, they would require us to review them further and to ensure that, there are no hidden NPAs. So if there are any potential NPA, then obviously it would require us as auditors to pass a MOC. RBI, in terms of the regulations and the guidance you would have on the rbi.org.in is, there are the RBI Master Circular, the RBI Master Direction, the circulars, press releases, notifications, and most importantly, the FAQs. Friends, after 2016, RBI had stopped issuing master circulars, but during the current year, on the 1st of April 2022, and I think a few of them later, it has issued a number of master circulars, which basically consolidates all the circulars which were issued since the time it was last issued. This, I think, it would be the Bible for all of us for the current year. The RBI Master Circular on prudential norms on IRAC and provisioning pertaining to advances. And last, the RBI issued this on the 1st of July 2015. And in between, there were a number of circulars which were issued. And obviously, that they created a lot of confusion because you had the master circular and then intervening circulars. So you had to read them together. Now, except for a few circulars which, RBI is not consolidated in this master circular, the 1st of April 2022 more or less consolidates the entire picture, and it would help all the members in, recognizing, classifying the accounts as NPA, ensuring adequate provision, etc. This, of course, we will take up in detail during the master workshop. Now, these are, some circulars which were issued during the year. I think one, other than the IRAC norms, housing finance would be relevant to all of you, as also Basel III capital regulations. Now, these are the other guidance of the Reserve Bank of India, which, all of you would require when you carry out the bank branch audit. And here, of course, I point out that, what would be important is the updated 3rd July 2017 Master Direction on frauds, very important. Then Master Direction on lending to MSME sector, again, a very important thing. And then, of course, interest rate on advances and deposits. I think, this is also an important guidance from the Reserve Bank, which all of us should have when we step out to carry out the bank branch audit. And then, of course, there's a Master Direction on lending to the MSME sector, which happens to be, the number of advances in the MSME sector is, in most banks would be huge, and in the branches we carry out. So again, this has been updated up to 29 July 2022. And all of them are available on rbi.org.in. And friends, when you go out and when you visit the branch, please ensure that, you visit the rbi.org.in site regularly, so that, just in case there is a circular which comes out and which is probably, also relevant for the FY 2022-23, then I think, you would be updated in that, because not, it's not necessary that the circulars only up to the 31st of March 2022 would be relevant. There could be some cases where, you would get direction post 31st March. Now, these FAQs on MSME and priority sector lending, friends, I would advise you to, download them and, carry them along. These are very easy to understand FAQs which the Reserve Bank of India has taken out, and it covers, the important sector of MSME and priority sector lending, which again, is very confusing. And when we take up the agriculture advances, which again is another confusion, is priority sector lending would be this thing. Of course, along with that, you can always, in case you have any confusion about UDIN, please do visit the UDIN site for accessing the FAQs. Now, what are the things one needs to carry when you set out to visit the branch? Now, in case you are doing the same bank as you were doing in the previous year, I would suggest that each team has a copy of the audit file of the previous year, because this helps the team, in case it is not the same team, to identify which are the statements which were signed, and etc. etc. Then what are the other audit aids? Obviously, I would require the letterheads. I would require stamps, the manual stamps. I would require the digital signatures, because most of the places I would require to sign digitally. I would require to download all the relevant RBI circulars and keep them on my laptop, and also all the team members. I would require the detailed branch audit program to be physically printed, and at each stage, all team members need to ensure that they are carrying out the branch audit in terms of the checklist which is there in the branch audit, and regularly reviewing that and also signing it. Then obviously I need to carry with me the appointment letter, the branch closing instructions, and of course, like other than the circulars, all copies of master circular. And most of all, I would suggest that please do carry a printout of the RBI master circular of 1st April 2022, because advances may not be the only part which we carry out, which is important, because there are other risk-prone areas in a balance sheet also. But then, in terms of risk profile, obviously, the advances would constitute a major risk, and then that 1st April 2022 master circular would be very relevant. And most importantly, in case you are carrying out the bank which has Finacle 10, then probably you carry out the you do carry a list of all the CBS codes, transaction codes, which you would require and the team members would require for carrying out the audit procedures. And in case you're doing it on Banks 24 or any other CBS thing, then please, in case you already have it in the previous year, then carry a copy of those CBS codes. Friends, I think that was about all the time we had for this, because it was a short introductory webinar. And before I take up the queries which may have come, I would like to announce that the Taxmann would be issuing or releasing the my book, A Practical Guide for Branch or Bank Auditors, for the current year, which is completely updated immediately after the end of this webinar. So this is the book which has been published by Taxmann. And I would here, before I take up the queries, I would like to thank not only with me for the past 5 years. This is the 6th edition. But most of all, I think, I would like to acknowledge the support and the guidance of the entire team of Taxmann in helping me publish this book. Thank you.